Appreciate everybody jumping on this morning. Got a beautiful day down in the deep south here today. Hopefully, it is beautiful where you are, and just appreciate everyone. I know people are going to be jumping on like crazy here over the next few minutes, but we just this is a special morning for us to have Steve Barger. Mike, what I'm going to do is go ahead and turn it over to you, and then you'll throw it back to me, and then I'll throw it to Steve. So Steve got the program this morning. I appreciate Mike and his team and all the leadership that Mike's providing, and great things are happening in their hierarchy. So, Mike, you go ahead, bro.
Hey, well, good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's well. Hey, in for a real treat today. Back when 1995, our company, I'd been in 5 years, Steve Barger and Joe Plumeri and team came over from Smith Barney, and where they had been a number of years transforming that company, and had been together prior to that in the early brokerage days. I tell people, Steve Barger, was one of those top trainers on Wall Street back in that 80s, 90s, when the movie came out and all that. But, the market just booming. But Barger was working with companies there, consulting their people, their leadership, but also in the field, the advisors. And guys would spend or invest. Brokers would invest up to 15 grand just to spend a weekend with Steve Barger. And he would consult them, help them understand better how to take their business to the next level. Man, look, when he came to Primerica, he did that with us. I tell people, Barger and Plumeri's 5-year period with us, that was my 6th through 10th year. And I exploded, professionalized us, diversified us, and just taught us about value. And one of the quotes that one of my favorite he gave me was, price is an issue only in the absence of value. So it's that value you place on you and yourself, your opportunity, your product, how to do that with a client by asking questions, listening, building that value, following up like a follow-up maniac. And man, we went over $500,000. We had $100,000 a year raise every year while Barger and Plumeri were here. And so, it's incredible, and so what I'm excited about you hearing from is Steve. He, not only was he profound then, but David and I have been through this a couple of times with him already. And I told Barger, it helped me so much as a leader. And I'm sure it's going to do the same with you. And so let's have a great day. Take some notes and pass it down to our team. But Steve, great to have you. And dude, love you and appreciate it. Look forward to it.
Yeah. So, Mike, that's great. And I was talking to Steve. Actually, Mike and I, before we did this, Mike and I, over the last couple of weeks, really have had a couple of sessions with Steve, and he was just kind of going over. And he's going to talk a little bit about his story, and he had some throat problems. He'll explain that in a second. But he's really had a lot of time to think. Again, he was with us from basically 95 to 2000, and so Steve really has just been a friend of our hierarchy. I still remember him talking about the value gap. The difference between where you are, the bigger the gap between you and the client from a value standpoint, then you can do things for them that they can't do for themselves. And the wider that gap, the better. It makes you more valuable to them. And but I still remember, him and Marilyn, his wife, they've been married now 56 years. But just great people. They live actually in Birmingham, Alabama now. So, but Steve, we appreciate you. This is and guys, to me, it's kind of interesting that Mike and I and those two sessions with him we both caught ourselves grabbing our notepads. And we were writing down notes as fast as he could talk. So this is really going to be good, because especially from a standpoint, so many times, people join our company and we go in to people and we just kind of download information. We just talk at people. And so it's so valuable what you're going to learn this morning in this next hour. So again, Mike, Steve got the whole program, and so hopefully you got your notepad out. And if you could, if you're presentable, even if you throw on a baseball cap, turn on your camera. Steve would like to be able to see your face if possible. If not, just grab your notepad, and we're going to turn it over to Steve. Steve, again, I'm with Mike. We love you. We appreciate you and Marilyn. And so look forward to doing more things in the future. So I'll turn it over to you.
Well, I want to thank you. And I know everybody is on mute, but you can just wave your hand. Can everybody understand me? Okay, just wave your hand if you can. Because David mentioned I went through some challenges about 4 years ago, and they removed my voice box. I had cancer and vocal cords and thyroid and neck, and it's no big deal. And the Lord actually blessed me and allowed me to be able to talk without a voice box. And I actually don't have any mechanical devices at all. I've learned to reroute the oxygen from my trachea into my esophagus. And what you're hearing now is my esophagus vibrating. I've learned to vibrate my esophagus and learned how to talk. And it's been a real blessing. So I continue to be able to do things that I've done in the past. The voice is a little gravelly, I think. But I will tell you, it was an amazing learning experience for me. We're going to talk today about relationships, and I have to tell you, a part of all of this has to do with expanding your horizons. The cancer that I had actually caused me to rethink a lot of things. At the end of the day, I now know more about cancer than I ever knew before. I've got to meet some wonderful people in the medical profession. I counsel people across the country who are going through the same operation. My life took a better turn because of this. It kind of gave me a little bit different purpose for part of my day. And it's been extraordinarily enjoyable, actually. It sounds weird to say that. But I've got new things in my head that I've never had in my head before, and new things in my heart that I've never had before. So it worked out quite well. I'm going to go now, switch to the slide presentation that I want to walk you through. We'll leave room at the end for some questions. Anybody can chat, use the chat bot, and ask questions, etc. I want to tell everybody how honored and privileged I am to be with all of you today. There's over 250 people on this call. So the honor part of that, a lot of people, you hear me use those words, I'm honored. It's an honor and a privilege to be here, and I never explain it. I feel the need to explain it. The honor is actually being asked to speak with you by David and Jill and Mike and Amy. That's an honor. I feel honored to do that. The privilege is being with over 250 people at 10 o'clock Central Time on a Saturday morning. Think about that for a minute. Anybody should view that as a privilege, where you have a group of people who are so interested in helping other people that they actually get together on a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock Central Time to improve their lives and improve the lives of other people. That's not happening very often in this country, especially today. We're living at a very difficult time. And I would suggest to you this meeting is actually what America is all about. That's what this meeting is. So I am very emotional about it. My heart is very full this morning because of this. And it's all because of you giving your time to do this for an hour this morning. Let me jump onto my slides here. Is it up there, David? Can everybody see it? David, you want to respond to me? Let me know if everybody can see this.
Oh yeah, yes, Steve, we got it, man. Everything's clear.
Very good, thank you. I started with this slide because I want to go back a long time in my lifetime. Well, Mike and David were so kind in their introductions. I actually started in the banking business in 1978. I actually created the very first investor center in a commercial bank in the United States of America in 1980. Now that was probably before several people on this call were maybe even born. But that's a picture of it. Now keep in mind that this was done 14 years before HR 10 was passed in the Clinton administration that allowed banking and brokerage and insurance to combine their efforts. So I built that 14 years before anybody ever thought about doing the same thing. And here are some of the materials that we actually, problems we solved. We had the IRA for retirement. We had securities transactions through discount brokerage. We sold idea annuities. We had management services, etc. And this was, as I said, 14 years before the rest of the industry, including Primerica, could ever legally do this. We found ways of getting it done. That's my early background in financial services. That's how I got recruited to go to Wall Street, because of, I guess, my vision about the future and what was going to happen over the next 20, 30 years. So when I was recovering from my cancer, and I hadn't learned how to speak yet, I was quiet, muted for a good 4 or 5 months, I guess. I was I had to write and scribble on a erasable board and communicate with my wife, Marilyn, and got a lot of time to think and write a lot of notes because I wasn't talking. And I will tell you, when you're not sure whether you're going to live or not because of the cancer, your mind gets very focused. And I began to think of all the things I've created working with with Mike and David and other people on this call and all the years in the business, what was really, really significant in our personal life and in our business life. And the result of that was the thought that all we really have at the end of the day is each other on this planet. That's all we have. But what we drive, where we live, all the trinkets we own, those things really don't make any difference. The only thing that gives any impact to our lives is our relationships. And I also got to thinking about what things help drive those relationships. There's two things that actually matter in our life and in our business. Relationships matter, and the decisions we make on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual basis matter. So those two elements, all of a sudden, I had clarity around understanding what actually makes a difference in our business life and in our personal life. So we had two things that I started to write about. How do we make great relationships? And how do we make great decisions? And how do they work together to make life the best it can possibly be, professionally and personally? And I got to thinking, when those two things intersect, a really great relationship and really great decisions intersect, the reward is actually happiness and contentment and gratification. We feel good. We do the right thing. That's the end result. And so I started to get excited thinking about this concept of building great relationships and making great decisions. And then I thought about a professor that I had a long time ago. This was 1964, which was again before several of you were born. In a classroom like this at Northeast Missouri State University, which is now Truman State University in Kirksville, Missouri. And I had a professor named Dr. Cunningham. And he loved, I went there to play basketball. Professor Cunningham loved basketball players, and he came to all the games. All the basketball players knew you'd get an A in his class if you just showed up, because he loved basketball players. I needed, my grade point was searching for an A to give me a decent grade point, like a 2 point. So I was going to take his class. His class was called Introduction to Straight Thinking. It was about logic. It was about thinking things through. It was about using your brain the right way, being creative, etc. Just thinking. Very interesting man in his 70s. Very interesting class. So it's a midterm. It's midterm in class. It's time for the midterm exam. Now in this class, Kirksville is about 3 hours north of St. Louis. And the class I was in, virtually everybody was from St. Louis or the St. Louis suburbs. I was from the Chicago area. That's where I grew up. I tell you that because it's relevant to what's about to happen. A week before midterms, he said, I want you guys to bring 6 sharp pencils and 3 blue books, which you know are used for writing essay answers to open-ended essay questions where they, say compare and contrast the following, etc. And you have to write and write and write and write. So his instructions actually scared me to begin with because I didn't know enough in my own about anything to fill one blue book, let alone 3. So we get to class, and it's a classroom just like this. It's got a black slate board up front. It's got a map pulled down, a world map pulled down across the board in front. He said, "You guys have questions on behind the map." He flips it up, and the question on the board was, "How do you get to St. Louis?" Now, keep in mind, everybody but me in the class is from St. Louis. So I'm upset immediately. My brain goes into freeze because I'm going, well, these guys know exactly how to do that. I have no idea. I've never been there. I calm down and I think, all right, he wants us to be creative. He wants us to think about a creative way of getting to St. Louis. So I think I wrote about, I know I saw a crop dusting airplane outside of town one time. And I thought about going out and hiring this guy who's a crop duster to actually fly me to St. Louis. And I was sure being cute and whatever. It doesn't make any difference. Everybody writes their essay. They hand it in. Everybody comes back the next week. He has the map pulled down again on the board in front. He passes out all the results. Everybody in the class flunked the test. Everybody got an F, which in a diabolical way made me feel really good because I knew I flunked it, but now I was amongst a peer group of equals because they all flunked it too. So I said, the answer's on the board. So he flips up the map, and the answer of the question about how you get to St. Louis was from where? From where? That single moment in my lifetime changed me forever. From that moment forward, I never, ever answered a direct question without having all the information I needed. So it dawned on me as I was putting all this together. You've got to be curious before you can respond to virtually anything. So the magic for making great decisions and great relationships is driven by curiosity. The more curious you are about a relationship, the better it gets. And you can go back into your own life and your own personal relationships, and you can validate that. The more curious you are, the more homework you do, the more diligent you are about decisions, the better the decisions become. Now, when you combine both of those, driven by extreme curiosity, life's good. Things are good. Relationships are good. Results are good. Outcomes are good. It becomes really, really important to drive it through curiosity. So here's the statement I came up with that I decided upon. The quality of our relationships and the effectiveness of our decisions is directly correlated to the breadth and depth of our curiosity. The more curious we are, the better the relationships get. And the more curious we are, the better our decisions become. Now, keep in mind, that's all we do every single day. That's all you do is build relationships and make decisions about your life and other people's lives. When you give advice and counsel to another human being, When you help them solve their problems, you're arriving at a decision. And the more homework you do, the more curious you are, the better the decision becomes. And when you wire together a very deep relationship with a very profound decision, you keep a lifetime client. They are with you forever. They will never leave you. So I got to thinking, all this that we're going through is nothing more. Life is nothing more than a continuum of relationships. So in the very beginning, you're in your mother's womb for 9 months. You have this symbiotic relationship with your mother for 9 months. Then all of a sudden you pop out and you get to meet your dad. Then you meet your brothers, your sisters, then grandparents, aunts and uncles, neighbors, grade school friends, high school friends, college, personal friends, workmates, clients, prospects, whoever's next, day in, day out. Matter of fact, I have my own personal rule. I meet 3 new people every day. I'm 76 years old, and I do that every day. Because every time you do that, you enrich your life. Every time you meet somebody new and you engage them with curiosity and asking about them, you find out things that you didn't know. You make your life better. You get smarter. It's a simple formula. Very simple. I met when I work out at a gym. I met a lady the other day who was in her 90s who was working out. She was a biophysicist when she was younger, working for General Electric. She actually helped put the first man on the moon. I just walked up, introduced myself, and started talking. I met this amazing person, which made my day better, which made me smarter, which enhanced my life. So relationships become absolutely critical. And if you stop and think about it, that's all the day is made up of. Relationships with our business people, or our family, or our friends. I don't know if you saw the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks. He was the FedEx pilot who crashed his plane on a deserted island. And he learned how to fish. He made fire. He got himself shelter from the rain. And then the next thing he did in order to survive was create a relationship. He had to have a relationship to survive. The more Wilsons we have in our life, the better our life becomes. It's very simple. The more people that you meet every day, the more things you learn, the better your life becomes. The more people you find out that you could possibly help, you end up making the world a better place by actually meeting more people. Because each of you are armed with a set of skills and knowledge that can help the world be a better place. That's really important for you to understand. You are equipped with the ability to help the world. So I view that it's incumbent upon you to meet as many people as possible. So here's some fundamental rules about relationships. It's all common sense. It's stuff you probably do every day. I'll give you a chance to read it, then I'm going to kind of walk you through it because I want to make some single points about each one of these. If the relationship is going to work the right way, you've got to place the other person before yourself. It's got to be in a servant's role. You've got to be able to actually demonstrate that you are genuinely concerned about their well-being, that you actually care about them, their circumstances. You've got to learn to ask relevant questions, not questions that are important to you, questions that are important to them. You've got to learn to listen in order to learn and understand, as opposed to listening to respond. Most people say they're concerned about other people, but they never demonstrate it because they're always talking. They're not asking questions and being quiet and allowing the other person to respond, engaging them in stories about themselves. You got to find out and discover what their needs are, their expectations. You've got to fit their world into yours, their schedule into yours, not the opposite. Because it's got to be all about them. To me, the most important request you can ever make is please tell me more. Get them to talk about themselves. Now, I say all relationships matter. Not all relationships are good, but you at least learn something from them. So I say, when we met for one or two reasons. Either you're going to be a blessing or you're going to be a lesson. I met several people in my life of both. Most people have been a blessing. Some people have been a lesson of things I never want to be, never want to do, never want to see. Period. Our decisions matter. The way we go about making our decisions as we give advice and counsel. This is a decision checklist. If we're going to give relevant advice, it requires us to make really, really good decisions. So we're actually in the problem-solving business. That's what we do. So clearly identifying exactly what the problem is, that takes curiosity, exactly what the problem is. Einstein once said, knowledge is having all the right answers. Intelligence is having all the right questions. So we've got to identify the actual problem. We need then to engage other points of view by asking other people to help and get us engaged. We need to gather all relevant information, weigh all the evidence, identify the different alternatives, select and make our choice, execute the decision, trust but verify, monitor the results, review the decision, go forward or make a change. It's in the midst of making great decisions. We've got to make decisions about several things every day. Who, what, why, where, when, and how. We have to make decisions about income and savings and expenses and investments and college and taxes. How much money do I need to make? How much money do I need to save? How much can I spend? Where should I invest my money? How do I prepare with the discipline in place to make sure my kids can go to college? What about my own retirement? We got to make decisions about a lot of things for ourselves and a lot of things for other people as we give advice and counsel. Look at all the resources we've got to do that, all at your fingertips. I said earlier, you are armed with the best resources in the country. You have to make a decision on how curious are you going to be to discover these resources. How curious are you going to be to solve somebody's problem and make the right decision? It's all driven by curiosity. Are you going to be curious enough just to sell them something and move on? Or are you going to be curious enough to make them a lifetime client and a lifetime friend? That's all up to you. And it's all driven by curiosity. I'll remind you again, the quality of our relationships and the effectiveness of our decisions is directly correlated to the breadth and depth of our curiosity. The question remains, how curious are you? That is the ultimate question. What's interesting about this new program, I told David and Mike, when I was at all this free time to think and not talk, I found it to be, I thought it was some of the best work I've ever done because it's so simple. You don't have to teach anybody a new skill at all. You don't. There's not something new you have to learn. Everybody has a certain level of curiosity. If I give you a gift and it's wrapped up in a box, sometimes people shake it because they're kind of curious to what might be in it. And I'm telling you, you can't open it for another month. And I start to give you some hints about it. You're going to be curious as to what. So everybody knows what curiosity is. Everybody understands curiosity. All I'm asking you to do is be more curious. So let me show you what curiosity looks like. You've heard, the saying, curiosity killed the cat. Well, there's a vet telling the cat the bad news is apparently you have curiosity. So I'm not certain actually if curiosity did kill the cat. I really don't know if that is a true statement, but I do know this is true. Curiosity did invent the CAT scan machine. I know that for a fact. Somebody's curiosity decided that that was the right thing to do, the right machine to build, because there was a problem that needed to be solved. They did enough research and they were curious enough to actually build a machine that can make people healthy and identify problems inside the body. That was all driven by curiosity. So here's how curiosity matters. Here's what makes it important, and here's what form it takes. And all these things are doable by everybody on this call. Every one of them, all 280 people. You can ask relevant questions. You can start to listen, to learn and understand. You can do more complete diagnosis or research. You can examine better, explore better, inquire better. You can be more attentive, do more homework, investigate a problem, observe more. You can all be more curious. This is in your personal life and your professional life. It applies to both because they're very similar in terms of relationship principles. Very similar. So here's some support tools. Mike and David mentioned the FNA and the BNA, things that I helped create when I was at American. You have a CRM system. I can tell you right now, if you use a CRM system the right way, and you continually add things to it because you're curious, you're going to discover that that CRM system can actually help you solve more problems. It's actually a curiosity tool. And a lot of people don't even use it the right way. They find it encumbers them. And I say it's the ultimate curiosity tool. The financial needs analysis is a curiosity tool. The business needs analysis is a curiosity tool. They all are. Everything. The hypothetical illustrator is a curiosity tool. Everything you can get your hands on to help you be more curious will help you in your business. Now, I want to give you some basics about getting someone to change something in their life. So we made a relationship, we met somebody, we started to be curious, we find out they have certain challenges, but there's some things they don't quite see or understand. So the question for us becomes, how do we help somebody recognize the problem that needs to be solved? What is the procedures we go through to get them to recognize the problem? How do we get them to appreciate that there is an opportunity to feel, think, and act differently than they are today? It's like join us. In order to join us, they have to join us emotionally, intellectually, and behaviorally. They got to feel and think and act differently to join and do what you want them to do. In other words, how do you actually get a prospect to make a change in their life? Either through investing with you, using your solutions for their financial problems, or joining your team. Either one makes no difference. I learned this years and years and years ago from a psychology professor. This is the core of a human being. This is precisely what drives behavior and what makes us who we are. By age 10, our core principles and values are already formed. Our understanding of right and wrong, good and bad, are clearly defined by the time we are 10 years old. So at the very core of all of us are these principles or values that we have that help guide us. They're a guiding mechanism. Those actually affect our feelings and our emotions. I know the difference between sad and happy. I know the difference between feeling bad and feeling good. I know, and all those things are a guidance system for my own feelings and my emotions. What do I laugh at? What do I cry about? Those are all based on my fundamental values and principles. What upsets me emotionally? All those things are guided by that core central values and principles. Then my feelings and my emotions are a guidance system for what I believe to be true. My opinions, my beliefs, and those beliefs become a guidance system for my behavior and my actions. Now, I will tell you this. When all of those are in perfect alignment, when my principles and values, my feelings and my emotions, my beliefs and my opinions, and my behaviors and my actions are in complete alignment, that's when I have personal integrity. That's when I am who I say I am. That's when you can trust me. When those are in complete alignment. If those get out of alignment, you have no integrity. If your behavior does not reflect those other things, you have no integrity. So the same thing applies when we need now to have somebody change their behavior. What do we have to do? We have to then create a series of questions and a thought process that gets them to talk about their feelings, their principles that guide them, the way they feel about things, the things they believe in, and the behavior they're currently going through, their actions they're currently going through, and the current behavior they exhibit today. We have to ask questions about all of those. They need to recognize those. They need to take a look at those. They have to examine those in order to make a decision. We don't have time today, but we'll probably have another session down the road where we get into the questions needed to actually make this model work. So I've thrown some questions together, not necessarily related to that last slide, but here's some questions once you get into the financial services side of the business. I pulled these from what I call my top 100 questions that you can ask somebody. And these are really simple questions, but they have open-ended questions that allow people to open up and allow you to know them. So a simple question, third one down, what is the purpose of your wealth? Whatever you've accumulated, you got $20,000, what's the purpose for it? What's it for? Why do you even do that? Tell me this. If I gave you an extra $100,000 tomorrow, what would you do with it? An extra 10, an extra 500, whatever the number is, what would you do with it? A great question. What wisdom would you share with an inexperienced investor? What are the 3 most important things you've learned about investing? All these questions are allow them to speak to what they currently know and what they can do. Here are some questions to make emotional connections with people, to take the relationship deeper. And all of these should be put in the CRM system. Every time you have somebody on the phone, say, hey, while I've got you on the phone, Steve, let me ask you something. What are the top 3 things on your bucket list? Or have you read any good books lately? Or what kind of music do you really enjoy? Or if they have a business, tell me why you started that. Tell me how business is going. Tell me how many problems you're currently having, etc. All of these don't apply. You put these in here as an example for you to be able to ask questions to get people to tell you more revealing information about their personal lives. That's the intention. So I created this, what I call curiosity index. This is what David was talking about earlier. And the index is nothing more than a comparison between the time you're letting them talk and the time you're talking. The percent of time during a relationship that you spend asking relevant questions and listening to understand, as opposed to talking, telling, and selling. What are the ratios? I say it should be 15% to 85. 85% of the time you're listening and asking questions and letting them talk. 15% of the time you're actually talking, telling, and selling. And the problem is in our business, that number is reversed. We spend all of our time telling. We spend all of our time preaching. We spend all of our time letting them know how smart we are. At the end of the day, if you learn to be curious enough and ask the right set of questions, they'll reveal everything you need to know. The light bulb will come on in their own head strictly by the questions that you ask. So New Year's resolution would be this. I don't know, we're in mid-year, so I only got 7 months left. I promise to increase my curiosity index by 25% in 2021. I'd like all of you on this call during the next week, practice being more curious. Please do that in your relationships and in your decisions. Make sure you're taking your relationship deep and the decisions are being made the right way. Some of you in the past may have seen this, but I put this in because it relates to curiosity. I guarantee this slide, 100% guaranteed. It works. Without question, without reservation, absolutely works. If you have a goal or a target, some objective, some dream and aspiration, if you are curious enough about it, seriously curious, I promise you there is a system, there is a process, there's a methodology that will fix it. It exists somewhere. And it usually exists inside your own set of resources at Primerica. There is an answer to that problem. So you identify what that is and you can find a system. The only thing missing to make this successful is the discipline that you and your client bring to the table. That's it. End of story. So simple. I'm going through this right now with you. I went through it learning how to talk like this, right? There's a systematic way of doing it. If you don't have the discipline to do it, you never get it done. But my current one is losing 15 pounds. So that's my goal. How curious am I? I'm curious enough to find a system that I truly believe in, I think will work, which I'm doing now. As long as I have the discipline to do that every single day, I will lose 15 pounds guaranteed. So I already put it in place for a week. I'm down 3.5 pounds. It's simple. It's common sense. Use that model in all the things that you do. There are some behaviors that we all have that actually don't require any talent whatsoever, but are extraordinarily valuable to other people. We don't have any, all of us are capable of every one of these. We can all be more curious, we can be on time, we can smile, we can demonstrate our genuine concern for another human being. We can not make it about ourselves, we can make it about somebody else. I can put in more effort. I can be more polite. I can use great eye contact, and so I have really good body language. I can work on a positive attitude, be coachable, demonstrate my gratitude, being humble. I can demonstrate my responsibility, my willingness to help. Those don't require any talent. We all know what those are, and each of us can do those. Once again, The quality of our relationships, the effectiveness of our decisions is directly correlated to the breadth and depth of our curiosity. Now, David wanted me to tell you this story because he remembers it from 20, 30 years ago. And I'm going to demonstrate to you how somebody put together a process that solves problems. There's only two things that we do on a daily basis in our work. We solve problems and we make people feel good. That's all work is about. If we're in, no matter what you're doing, I don't care what your line of work is, you're solving somebody's problem. And in the process, hopefully you're making them feel good. That's the intellectual and the emotional side of any business, period. So my wife's birthday is December 27th, 2 days after Christmas. And for years and years and years, I would get Christmas right or the birthday wrong or the birthday right, Christmas wrong. And I just thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get her a new car. I don't know which day to give it to her, but I'm going to get her a new car at Christmas. So I decided it was going to be Christmas. But back then, it's 1994. I wanted to buy an American car. I didn't want to buy a Japanese car. So my son-in-law and my two sons and I go looking for a car on a Saturday. We're driving all over the place. We go to the Cadillac dealership. We go to the Chrysler dealership, the Ford dealership, the Chevy dealership. And all we get is it's simple. Here's the sales pitch like we got at the Cadillac dealership. This guy comes out of the sales room. We're looking at a car. He's actually dressed like Herb Tarlick. If you ever watched WKRP television show that was on for years, got like a plaid suit on, and a flowered tie, walks out and shakes hands, introduces himself. He has a notepad with him, He starts telling me, immediately starts talking. Starts telling me about the features of this CST Cadillac. And he talking. And he pulls out a pad of paper and he writes a number down. Says he has their price. And he writes a number down. He says, I think I can get my sales manager to accept this price if you're interested. So he goes in the showroom. We're still outside. He comes back out and he visibly disgusted. And he's showing me that. He actually crinkles up the piece of paper and throws it on the ground in disgust, meaning his manager would not accept that number. So he comes right over and he starts going to write down another number. You know the game. You've all played the game. I back away from him. I'm leaving. I don't want anything to do with this guy. It's just a terrible experience. So it's a rush hour, and we live in Scottsdale, Arizona at the time. It's rush hour. I'm sitting very busy at Scottsdale Avenue. And stoplight next to the Lexus dealership. And my son, hey, let's go and look at Lexus. I said, I don't want to buy a Japanese car. He says, nah, let's go look. So we pull in, wait for rush hour to get over with. So we go in. When I walk in, this lady opens the door and her first words are, welcome to the Lexus experience. And I'm thinking, wow, that's a great way to introduce yourself. She said, if you gentlemen know I have a seat over here, John Bayless will be right with you. She mentioned his name. And she said, and what is your name? And I said, Steve. She said, last name. I said, Barger. This is Grant, Scott, and James. My name's Steve Barger. She said, fine, Mr. Barger. Can I get you a soft drink? You want some water? And so we sat there. So she sat us down in front of this Lexus that was on this turntable under a spotlight, glistening and fucking beautiful, whatever. John Bayless comes up, introduces himself, calls me Mr. Barger. So she told him my name. So it's all wired together. Say, hey, Mr. Barger, glad to have you here. First question out of his mouth, the very first question he asked me, why are you looking at a Lexus? That is one heck of a question. I honestly, I told him I wasn't going to, but my son thought we should. But you know, I read about them. They're pretty good cars. They're pretty reliable. I can see they're a very attractive car. So Grant starts talking about the details of the car since he's read up on it. I say, hey, Grant, we don't need to talk about them. He says, why are you buying a car today? Not a luxury, but why are you buying a car? Nobody asked me that question all day long. I said, it's a gift from my wife. You could see the light bulb go on in his head. He had the information he needed to know. From that moment forward, he was in the wife mode. It's a gift from my wife. He knew a couple things, who it was for, and I had enough money to buy a gift like that from my wife. That's all he needed to know. So he starts now talking about all the features of the automobile that my wife would enjoy. So he says, he opens the trunk. He says, your wife ever do any shopping? I said, yeah, every day. He says, yeah, did you ever go to the shopping malls around here? I said, oh, yeah, yeah. He says, you know, they've been having trouble in some of those parking lots. He said, when this trunk is open, he said, you see that red button right there? I said, yeah. He said, push that button. So I pushed the button, and the lights alternated, flashing on and off, and the horn beeps really loud. It's an alarm system. It's built in there so that if anybody should cause my wife any problem while she's got the trunk open or getting attacked or whatever, it's an alarm system. And he simply looks at me and he says, you think that Mrs. Barger would feel safe with that feature? What am I going to say? I said, absolutely. He says, let's do this. He says, let's take it out for a test drive. I said, look, there's way too much traffic. I don't want to do that. He said, oh, we got a test track out back. And they had some land out in the desert where they drove. It wasn't actually a test track, but they had a place in the desert they could go. No cars. Blacktop road. So we get in the car. We go out. Driving. And we're going on this curve. He says, I want you to take that curve at about 60 miles an hour. And I want you to slam on the brakes. I said, I really don't want to do that. He said, trust me. I'll show you one. So I take it about 60, 55, 60. I slam on the brakes. It's got those anti-locking brakes. The car comes to a complete safe stop. No swerving, no sliding, no skidding. He says, don't you think Mrs. Barger would feel safe in a car like this? So we go back to the dealership. He goes through a bunch of other stuff. He shows me different features, always asking if my wife would like it. We go back. He says, I want to introduce you to somebody. So we walk back across the little alleyway that's covered. And he says, I want you to meet the head of maintenance. He says, no. And so the guy, when we went over, knew my name. He said, this must be Mr. Barger. John Bayless did not say my name. The head of maintenance said, this must be Mr. Barger. And John said, yeah, that's Mr. Barger. He handed me a business card, which said maintenance manager. And he said, whenever Mrs. Barger brings the car in for the regular maintenance, I'll be responsible for her happiness. I'll be responsible for her happiness. Let me repeat that one more time. I'll be responsible for her happiness. And look out there, most shops, they just got a bunch of hoists and whatever. In this shop, they have a plexiglass sign that hangs down in front of each of the lifts that has the name of the mechanic and the number of years of experience and their specific automotive expertise. So we walk around and I see they got a place where they're washing cars. And the guy says, "Oh, of course we wash all the cars." And I said, I'm being negative because I just don't want to buy this car. I said, "Yeah, when I was in college, I used to wash cars at a local dealership." I said, I've been a wash monkey before. That's what I was called. So the kid washing the cars hands me a business card that says detail expert. I said, "Yeah, great. I know you wash the car." And the guy says, "We wash them before we bring them in here, not after, because we do not want any dirt in this place because they're high performance cars." Anyway, to make a long story really short, she got a 94 LS 400 for Christmas. They brought it out. They had it delivered Christmas morning and put a big red bow on it in the driveway. They delivered it. So I just gave her a key for Christmas. She looked out. We, as the drapes pulled, looked out, and there was the car. So the next day, the phone rings. I answered. It's John Bayless calling for my wife, Marilyn, asking her how she enjoyed her gift, which was a stunning revelation. A week later, I get this survey in the mail. It says, "Please tell us how we're doing. We so much want to improve our Lexus experience." I don't send it back. A week after that, I get a phone call from the assistant manager at the dealership asking me if I'd return the survey. I didn't do it. Then I get a call from the manager. I didn't do it. Another week goes by. I didn't do it. The regional manager for Lexus calls me and said, "Mr. Barger, you must understand. We need to make certain the Lexus experience is the best in the world. Would you please respond?" And I did. That is the essence of buying the Lexus for my wife in an orchestrated fashion, premeditated, thought through, executed to the perfection, where you would get a chance to think about the relationship and how you want it to be, the questions you will ask, the experience that you expect, the decisions that you will make, the presentation that you decide yourself. You all have the capability of thinking those things through, every one of you. And I want you to do that. I want you to think everything through. I'll leave you with this. Just improve your curiosity index. That one thing alone will change your trajectory, whether it's from the recruiting side or any other side. With that, I'm going to turn it back over. And if anybody has any questions, David and Michael, you can.
Hey, Steve, somebody did ask to go back, if you would put that slide up with the questions on it. They want to take a screenshot. I will say this, guys, maybe if Steve's going to do that while he's doing that, we got this recorded and I've got the slideshow. So Monday, we will email this out to all RVPs. So Monday, they'll have an email of hopefully we'll do the recording too. But definitely the slides and recording will go out the very first of next week. But man, what valuable information. And, the thing about it is I love just being curious about people. To me, that's just really, caring and being authentic and genuine. And, they'll say, and people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so for us to be really genuinely concerned about others, man, that's just such a home run. And the whole idea, I love the curiosity index, that if we could do that more rather than just throwing info toward people or at people, and without really listening and getting them like you said, if we could increase our index by 25% this year in 2021. And I got a text from Mike during the session, and that Steve, we need to do maybe a couple of more of these and kind of dive in deeper, even. And so we'll get that we'll get that planned, and then
the next one will be about the actual questions we can get into. I don't have enough time today, but I've got what I consider to be the best 100 questions you could ever ask. And then how you relate to that one slide. Let me quickly go back to it.
Well, Jill? Yeah, Jill's been over here. Her laptop is smoking over here. She's been tearing up the keyboard while you've been sharing.
This slide right here. If we start to ask questions that draw out people's fundamental values and principles, the way they think about things, their feelings and emotions, their definite opinions, and their current behaviors. Now we know what we're dealing with. And now we know what to address. And now we know that we have things that can affect all three of those. The way you feel, think, and act can all be dramatically affected.
Hey, Steve, one of the things that I loved when you were talking to Mike and I, you told the story about the girl giving you a haircut, and wanted to be a writer or whatever. I thought that was a great story. I don't know if you can do a Cliff Note version of that, but how you
I was getting my hair cut, and this lady was divorced with 2 kids, trying to make a living. She's an English major. She always wanted to be a writer. So I spent my haircut just asking her questions. That's all I did, was ask her questions. Wanted to know exactly what the challenges were, et cetera, the age of her kids and daycare and making a living and being a single parent. But her passion was English and writing. So I sent her a couple, 3 articles in a workbook that I had created, where she could start to think about doing it, getting started. Just get started in writing if that's your passion. Here's a couple things you could write about. And she dropped me a note the other day saying she's now started to at least write some short stories. So the wonderful part about that is not me, but the wonderful part is there was to interact with another human being, to ask enough questions, to see how their life is going. Forget about your life or my life. How's their life going? And then to be able to, in some fashion, be able to offer them something with no compensation, with nothing coming back, except the knowledge that you know you've helped them. Because I guarantee you the psychological pay is the beginning of the relationship.
Wow.
That's it.
Yeah. You know, Steve, man, and that's just really, again, servant leadership, serving others and loving and caring about people. I mean, you know, that's why I remember when I first got started, I would always, before I would go in and on an appointment, you know, I would just say a little prayer, maybe on the ride over, just say, Lord, you know, if there's any way I can help somebody tonight, if there's anything I can do for these people, please help me do it.
So I started the message with this about everybody. Everybody on this call is armed and dangerous. You are armed with the information and knowledge and skills to help other people in this world. You should get up every morning thinking about, who can I meet? Who can I start to talk to and ask a bunch of questions and just shut up and listen to them? Just let them talk. Let them tell me their life story. Let them tell me their problems. Let them tell me their emotions. Let them tell me their beliefs. Let them tell me what they're currently going through. Just listen. You are now the one in complete control of the relationship. You're the one with all the knowledge, not about the solutions. You now got all the knowledge about them. And you're doing it because you know you can help them. I will tell you this, there's probably not one person you walk by on the street that you can't help in one way or another.
Yeah.
Not one person. So here's what I want you to do. I got to go back to the slides. I'm sorry, I'm taking a little bit too long here. I got one more thing I want you to do. Can you see that slide now, David?
Yeah, we see it.
All right, here's all you learn things. Here's how things actually get embedded in the adult brain. Here's how we learn. Within 24 hours, I want you to contact 3 people and teach them what you learned today. I guarantee you, if you repeat this 3 times, it'll be embedded in your brain. Number 2, I want you to find somebody on this call, and I want you to start communicating with each other on a regular basis. Maybe somebody you haven't met yet. I don't know. I want you to mentor each other toward advanced curiosity. Start talking about how you're being more curious. Number 3, there are elements inside of Primerica, all of its products, all of its services, everything it provides that you do not know about. I want you to select 3 things that you need to learn more about during the next 3 months. And then I want you to make a learning commitment to 3 other people, promising that you will learn those 3 things over the next 3 months. That's how adults change behavior when it comes to learning.
Wow. That's great.
Perfect
Well,
job.
Stevie, that's awesome, man. And hey, so yeah, Jill just made a comment when you were talking about listening, asking questions, listening, and Jill said, you know, it's a dying art. You know that it's so, you know, but anyway, valuable, very powerful. So
Well, thank you. I want to thank everybody on the call for making my day. This has been a wonderful, wonderful experience for me. I just absolutely love meeting every one of you, seeing you, having you respond, spending your hour on a Saturday morning this way. Such an honor and a privilege to be with you. I thank you for each and every one of you. Thank you so much.
yeah, we're good, Steve. And hey, well, guys, listen, we're closing out. We're closing out the month Monday. Company's going to have a special RVP locker room open to the whole company Monday at 12 noon. We'll be talking about Magnify May. Is going to be the theme. So they'll be talking about kind of the incentives that we have going for May. So that'll be open to everybody. We'll huddle up with Steve. We'll get this out to everybody. And but anyway, again, we'll get the email, the slideshow out, the recording out. And there was one other thing I was going to say, and I can't remember it. What was I going to say, Joe?
Hey, David, could you and Mike and I huddle up immediately after this?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah, Steve, the other thing I was going to do, there's a bunch of comments. So I'm going to leave this up for a minute so you can go back and look at all the comments, people thanking you for sharing. So I'm going to leave that up. Okay. We'll stay active. Okay. Okay, guys. We got still over 200 people on board. So I appreciate y'all hanging in there with us. So have a great weekend. Let's roll, man. Let's have some fun.